Hello fiber friends, and welcome to the Jillian Eve channel. I'm Evie, I spin yarn, I make things from the yarn I spin, and today I want to share with you a make-along for the month of September. It is time for Capetember. If you've been following along with my project, it's kind of got a lot going on to create this cape with a history-bounding element of a Verifelder-inspired collar. It's a pile woven collar that I hand spun and I'm still weaving, hence why the cape's not done. I was inspired to start this cape project from my friend Shannon over at her channel, Shannon Makes. She did a sew-along last year for Capetember, and we thought that this year it would be a lot of fun to join forces, maybe give some inspiration for anyone who didn't finish their project from last year. That's me. And to open this up to be, instead of just a sew-along, a make-along, and invite anyone to join us who wants to create a cape or shawl or a cloak or a poncho or a capelet. Anything that hangs from the shoulders is fair game, and any craft is fair game as well. You can sew, crochet, null-bind if you really wanted to, or knit, of course, weave. We can do that as well. So this is just going to be a fun community project to create something together and to support each other, share our projects, and do all of that during the month of September, which we are calling Capetember. I think that we should get all of our creative ideas flowing, and let's have a chat with Shannon.
I am Shannon Makes, and I am a historical costumer. I do some vintage stuff. I'm also a circus artist, so I have a little performing aspect to my channel, and I mainly do a lot of repurposing and upcycling stuff, but you know, every now and then I work with actual yardage, and it's quite a treat.
So let's talk about Capetember. This is such a great project. You got this going last year, and that was my inspiration to start my own cape that turned out to be very ambitious for me, and I'm still working on it, but that's okay. I'm not the only one. There are several people who started last year and are like, ooh, this is the push I need to finish up. So we also have new people who are joining the project coming in now, and that's great as well. So I just wanted to chat with you about where this whole thing started, the initial cape that you made. So let's start there. Tell us about your project from last year.
Alright, so when I originally started the sew-along, my intention was to do it with one specific pattern and kind of walk people through like very step-by-step how to sew this pattern. But then I got a lot of people that were super interested in joining a sew-along for a cape, but with a lot of different patterns. Like some people already had patterns in their stash, or maybe they found that the original pattern I was using wasn't in their size, which was 100% my fault. I did not realize that the Vogue pattern was, you know, not as size inclusive as it should be. So basically there was a lot of interest, and but not with specifically the Vogue pattern. So I decided to kind of modify the sew-along and do it in a way that hopefully at least people could follow along if they wanted to use the Vogue pattern, but also that it would be giving value and inspiration and some useful tips to people who were following along with other various patterns. And at this point, of course, it was a sew-along, so everyone was at least sewing, so the tips were kind of, you know, useful theoretically for everyone. Yeah, so that was kind of how it started, and I had already found some gorgeous fabric for it, for the inside and for the lining, and so I just went through and I released 2 videos a week for a month. That was exhausting because I tend to over-edit my videos, but kind of walking people through the various steps of how to put this cape together. And then at the end we had everyone who wanted to could submit a little video clip of them in their finished garments, and then I kind of edited that all together for the final reveal of the last installment, and that was also super, super fun. For one, editing with edit footage that wasn't just me, and two, getting to see everyone's final finished garments in action, in motion. Previously, there had just been like a lot of photos being posted on the Facebook page, so seeing the videos was really, really fun.
I love the video aspect of it because you get such a different look at clothing when you see how a body moves with it. It just gives it something different than photographs are so flat.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to also mention that we are doing that again this year, right? If people have footage that they want to share, that will get edited into a video so we can show off all the capes.
Absolutely.
And shawls and cloaks.
Hoods.
And that was another thing. We've kind of broadened the definition this year.
Yeah, we want to get everybody who wants to join in, as long as it kind of, generally hits the head and or shoulder region. Like, that's totally fine. I mean, honestly, I suppose if you wanted to join in and use it as motivation to finish a pair of socks, like, I wouldn't really mind. You just might not get as much value out of it yourself. But, like, whoever wants to join is welcome.
Right. I'm kind of going with, if it hangs from the shoulders, it's fair game.
Sounds good, yeah.
And so the size inclusivity thing, I'm going to say that's Vogue's fault. But I used a simplicity pattern for my cape, and it also was not entirely size inclusive. I had to make some adjustments to the shoulders to size it up so that it would fit my shoulders, and that's unfortunate. Sometimes the patterns out there just aren't size inclusive. And so I would also say, if people come across patterns that are size inclusive, we absolutely would love to share that within the community so that we can find those patterns. So we have a couple places where people are interacting in the community, chatting with each other. Of course, there are hashtags like for Instagram, but we also have a Facebook group and a Discord group. And so if you would like to join any of those, anyone who's watching, we will have a link in the description of this video to get to the Facebook group, and then you can either get the Discord link there or contact me. You can email me. My email is down there as well. So we have those things available for people. But Shannon, I want to get back to one thing that's in relation to adjusting a pattern for your needs, whether that's for your size needs or for your practical needs, because you did something very interesting with your cape from last year so that it would fit your needs. Would you love to tell us about that? Because I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew that I would probably get the most use out of my cape, practically speaking, if I was able to wear it with a backpack. And it's funny because this is kind of, I've seen this debate come up on Facebook every now and then. Someone will ask, like, how do you wear a cape with a backpack? Because of course, traditionally, if you have a backpack that's any lower than, let's say, waist-ish, when you try, as soon as you put on a backpack, all the excess that falls below that kind of gets bunched up in the straps of the backpacks. And of course, there are people who say, oh, like, look how the hobbits did it in Lord of the Rings. Like, that's like a big, people always suggest that, but that was actually movie magic. Like, they didn't have a real solution to that. They just had like a bunch of behind the scenes MacGyvering. And I wanted like a real life solution that I could use on a daily basis to wear my cape with a backpack, especially because at that point I was living in Copenhagen and I was biking to work every day, and I was bringing my dog to work, and she's a little corgi and she has a backpack. So I'm basically, if I'm wearing outerwear, I'm almost always also on a bike and have a backpack. So I kind of modified the pattern. I split the back portion into like a couple of different panels so that that little backpack slit would fall on the seams that were already existing, and that kind of allowed me to make a much cleaner finish. And so there are these two little slits. They're maybe like 2 inches big on either side, and that turned out really well. Honestly, I was a little bit afraid that it would turn into like maybe a gaping hole that would be super noticeable when I wasn't wearing a backpack. But in the end, they were completely invisible. And that function of it worked out really well. What I kind of didn't foresee, though, was that you also have to modify the straps on the backpack itself. In order to like pass them through, it's really more practical if you kind of attach a buckle clasp on either side, and I never actually got around to modifying the backpack to have that buckle, so in the end I actually didn't use that functionality of it so much, but the few times that I did, it worked really well.
I think just putting the idea out there, though, is really valuable, because making an adjustment to make something work, I mean, that's a lot of the reason why we make things ourselves, right? So I thought that was just a really cool adjustment that you did. And now I'm definitely going to be watching the Hobbit backpacks more when I watch Lord of the Rings.
Right, yeah.
Looking really close. How did they do that? So what are you thinking of for this year? Are you going to make another cape?
Oh, it's kind of showing up on camera. It's this lovely forest green wool, and it's actually the leftovers from when I made my 1890s bloomers, which was one of my very first videos almost 2 years ago. And it's actually kind of funny because I specifically remember in that I have the fabric all laid out on the floor of my house in Copenhagen, and I'm laying out my bloomer patterns very, very carefully so that I can squeeze as much of the remnant fabric out of it. And I made some comment about like, oh, hopefully I can use it later or something to that effect. And sure enough, I pulled it out. I just opened it all up, and I think I should have enough to do a baby cape, a capelet. I'm not sure how long it's gonna be able to be. I'm thinking like mid bicep, maybe. I need to kind of get the pattern out and play with it and decide, do I need to like save some yardage for a collar? I would love to have a hood, but I really suspect that's not going to be in the cards for this one. So the game plan is forest green wool, maybe some leather oak leaves or something around the neck as a clasp, and then I wanted to do some embroidery on the bottom front corners, which was completely inspired by this gorgeous cape that I found on Etsy in a completely different color scheme that's not at all my colors, but it was gorgeous, and I'm definitely using that for inspiration. So those are my plans for this year. What about you? Do you have any specific plans for yours?
Well, I'm still weaving the collar for this one, so I am really hoping to get that finished up, and this is definitely a push for me to get this one done and wrapped up. But then I did come across another pattern that absolutely captured my interest, and I thought, ooh, I should do that also. And again, mine is similar to yours, maybe a capelet or a shorter cape. I think it would maybe come to elbows, we'll see. But if I can squeeze out the time to get that one done, I will be spinning and weaving and sewing that one. So that'll be exciting if I can manage to pull it off. We'll see. I might be overestimating.
But that would be on brand, right? Like, I think we all do that, yes, to some extent. And
absolutely.
You'll be in good company, because I suspect that there's going to be a good chunk of all of our Capetember participants this year that also don't finish an entire garment in a month, because that's a lot to ask. That takes a lot of free time. And so there's absolutely no pressure on anyone to finish a garment. It's just to kind of join in and have fun and get some guidance and maybe some motivation to at least get started, to make some progress.
Absolutely. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for doing this collab with me. Friends, I will have links for Shannon's content, and we will have all of the links. I'll just put it that way. And we'll have some playlists to compile everything so that hopefully you'll be able to find where things are easily. Shannon, thank you again so much for this whole Capetember adventure.
You're very welcome.
I look forward to seeing what you do, and yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, friends, that's what I have for today. I hope you are inspired. I hope you're thinking of creating a fantastic project yourself. I'll see you next time, and I will say happy spinning and happy making.